It's Furiosa, not Furiosa. Guys, I had to. I saw that on Letterboxd and it was a slay. It was funny. Not a review, but we tend to vote stuff up there that is not a review. Okay, so I wanted to talk about Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, and I wanted to talk about a little bit about my pre-thoughts, thoughts during, and post-thoughts. So, to start with, me and my friend were discussing ACOTAR. If you don't know, ugh, you're so behind at this point. I don't know how to catch you up. ACOTAR is pretty much a modern yet fantasy retelling of Beauty and the Beast, essentially, but obviously with a lot of differences. Um, the roles of hero and damsel are definitely flipped, but let's just say it's a pretty violent series. And I was talking to my friend about it, and I was like, I really don't want to, I really don't know if I can continue. Like, the level of torture that the writer put the main character, the woman, through, I feel like I understand that we're all being pushed like this narrative and that girls want to be action heroes too, which I'm not. I don't, obviously, when it's poorly done, I don't like it, but as a general thing, I don't hate it. Um, but I was just telling her, I I don't like um, how we have this sort of trend of strong female characters, but they're strong in situations that nobody in real time would be faced in. Like, they're strong but in an unrelatable way because they've usually gone through the trauma of war or murder or something like that. And so I feel it. We as a culture are done. Like, for instance, even the great characters of Katniss Everdeen, which are hailed as kind of heroes and role models, are products of trauma. Trauma. So, when I saw Mad Max Furiosa, I mean, I saw Fury Road a while back. I had rewatched it after watching Furiosa, but I watched it a while back and I remember loving it for um, the stunts. The stunts were really wild. The action, high octane, um, and we got a badass female character that didn't feel like contrived. Um, and even though I say that, Furiosa is a strong female character who has been literally shaped that way through horror. It's almost like, the stepsisters in Cinderella cutting off their feet to fit the shoe. That's what I feel like strong female characters are. Like, even when they get to the desired point of like, oh, I don't know what the point is. Are you chasing male respectability? Do we need a man to go, oh wow, what a badass woman, because they would otherwise not even acknowledge you? Is like, what is the point of doing these things? But anyway, I forget what I was saying. So Furiosa in Fury Road is very like understated. And watching it recently again, I'm like, this is such a campy freaking. I don't know why I thought there was like a realism aspect to it. I was like, in hindsight, I was like, oh, it was like this very gritty. I think the the stunts and the crazy things with the crazy uh, trucks and the rigs, all of that, I felt very realistic. Maybe that's why I feel like it was. But Immortan Joe's costume, the War Boys, um, everything about it is pretty like 211. There was, I don't think it's supposed to be realism here, but it was supposed to be like a gritty fantasy, I guess. But oh yeah, but when you see like the 6 foot models with the perfect hair and the makeup and the like really funny, their funny outfits, I'm like, this is so taking me out. Like, if you, I mean, I get that they even had like it's possible to get rags to look like chic and everything, but like the Riley Q with the red hair and the bleach blonde hair, I guess why would I tell them to have like more natural looking women when the war boys also have this like makeup all over them? I suppose it doesn't make sense to me in the universe, right, where they're conserving resources and stuff. But obviously in Immortan Joe's wife, Walt, maybe there's something like special dyes or whatever. So anyway, when I was experiencing like little red flags in Furiosa, going like, oh, I don't like that costume, or I don't like this design is taking me out of the realism. And then I remembered Fury Road did the exact same thing. And upon rewatching Fury Road afterwards, I want to say I like Furiosa better. There's like I like it better. It has better. I mean that okay. So in terms of fooling us into thinking that everything is practical, Fury Road does it better. Yeah, it looks very like I could feel all of those crashes and stuff like that. But Furiosa, while a little bit more CGI heavy, still does really great at letting the audience know what, like, having the action be fairly clean and followable. So I liked it. I liked it a lot, and I liked that. Oh, a frack. I forgot to mention, I watched this in 4DX and Regal, and OMG, is that the experience to have? Like, oh my gosh, the seats were moving and the wind was simulating bullets, and there was like a tiny splash of water at one point, but it's desert, so we didn't get a lot of that. There was smoke. The screen was tiny, that was the only thing. If the screen was bigger, it would have been like, wow, that's it. Sign me up for virtual reality at that point. But my goodness, and that's the thing. When I came out of Furiosa, I'm like, this is so effing good. This is so flippin' good that I just, I, I have no words. But the thing is, I'm like, I can't distinguish what was the grin on my face because of the freaking bumper chairs, or because of the film. Because every time, like, and the thing is, what did I just monologue about, right? I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to see violence, and I don't want to see women getting tortured, and that was one of the things I didn't want going in, is like, ugh, I don't want to support another movie that's gonna have a tortured protagonist to make him a badass. I mean, this happens to men too. I literally hate fridging. I hate the concept of my wife and kids are dead, so I'm now this rogue warrior walking around and I can't ever settle down. I mean, it's great motivation to have like a Ronin, uh, Western roaming cowboy character. Like, I get that everybody needs, you can't just, you can't do that when you're happy with a family. That's why they do it to these people, is to get the story in motion. But I'm like, well, I don't like it. I don't like it. And I didn't like it with Furiosa either, because what happens with her, and I'll talk about Praetorian Jack and her later on, is like, I, I hate these hopeless stories. I hate them. And I know that the point is supposed to be that they go through this horrible tragedy and yet they still have this will to live and stuff. I don't know if you've noticed the current social climate, but people are like barely hanging on, you know? Relationships are just not happening. Everyone's fighting. No one no one has faith in anything anymore. And it's horrible. Like, I just I don't know, like, and I understand that the penchant for cinema to keep going towards, like, they don't want to repeat the whole um the cliche sort of 1, 2, 3 happy ending, you get the girl at the end thing. They don't want to be cliche, and it's funny that all of those action movies that everybody pans and says it's so predictable and cliche, that's the stuff everybody loves. Everybody loves to see it. Okay? I love to see a happy hero at the end. That's why I'll be watching things like Hitman, and just because we need the rom-com version of an action flick. Furiosa, um, it did what I didn't want. Like, I didn't want to go into this world and, see a lot of bad, vile shit. Excuse my French. But the thing about Fury Road is, because it's kind of a 2-day sort of straight following of the character sequence, you get the whole concept of the wives, the trapped in the vault for breeding, the white warriors, the war boys who are brainwashed into religious fanaticism. You get like, it does really well in that it like world builds by giving you a teeny drop, but it's just so it's so self-explanatory and it's really good. And then we get like this hopeful sequence. Basically, it's action and then it's hope, because Furiosa's going to the green place, and Furiosa's very soft in this film. Like, despite being like a badass with no arm and the grease on the forehead, she's very much like a very soft and trusting type to Max, which is so interesting because you would think that she would be jaded, right? From what she's dealt with, I suppose, as her position. And you don't. Charlize is very, very warm to Max and almost kind of trusts him before because she senses something in him. But she plays, the continuity is good from the sequel and the prequel, in that I think Charlize Theron read this prequel, so she knows her backstory, and she could like, it wasn't meant to be played as if Furiosa has been always betrayed by men and that she would never trust a man. It was played as if she recognized something in Max, like she almost senses his desire to do good, his nobility. But I wish that we saw there's just not a clean enough connection for me between the transition from this kind of like, from who she is in Furiosa and who she's in Fury Road, because we still have kind of mute young girl turned commander, imperator, however you say it. Let's discuss so I didn't notice that the girl who was playing young Furiosa in Furiosa, I didn't notice that she was like CGI'd to gradually turn into Anya, which is so wild, because I was just like, dang, this casting was just so good. But no, they're like digitally superpositioning her face, and it's like dialing up 30%, 40%, a lot. So wow, very cool technology. And the little girl was great. I the green, it's so funny, all the like references from Eden to the fall. But she gets kidnapped, and I felt as if the mapping of everything just didn't quite make sense to me. Like, the green place was quite in range for Dementus's gang, Immortan Joe's gang. Like, I just wasn't really following, I guess, how that all came together. I wish the green place, it didn't give me such Themyscira vibes from Wonder Woman. I wanted to talk about Dementus and Furiosa. So Dementus is it's kind of odd, because everything that he does to her, it's almost kind of on accident. Like, for instance, he crucifies her mother. Well, he must know it's her mother, but for all we know, she could have been some rogue warrior. He tortures her because he has to, right? He wants to find out about the green place, and she's not gonna give it up, and so, I mean, he's kind of forced to torture her, if you think about it. I mean, yeah, he's a sick fuck. We see that he tears people apart for sport, but I mean, there's a part of Dementus that's like, you can tell there's like a little bit of heart there. That's why I feel like his character was inconsistent. Because he clearly is soft for Furiosa. And if you think about the way Immortan Joe views her and the way he views her as a child, as his daughter, right? And Immortan Joe views her as like the way he fixated on her. It was just terrifying. The whole like future wives thing. Um, oh my god, the point that I was trying to make about Fury Road the point I was trying to make for Fury Road is that we spend time running away from a horrible situation, right? And everything, like, it's kind of, we don't dwell too much on the dark side of what it is to be in the vault. But in this movie, you almost can't help it. Like, you know that there's gonna be um, an SA aspect. There's gonna be a lot of horrible aspects that you like. It's like George Miller wants to make an action film where there's some girls locked up in a in a in a vault for breeding while some guy, like, I understand that it's like campy and like over the top evil, but it also is kind of made to be lighthearted in that fact. And there's even people out there that are like, oh man, Immortan Joe, that's the guy that deserves a prequel. Like, the horror of the situation is very overlooked. So, anyway, you have Dementus, and so the horror of the situation is overlooked in Fury Road, and in Furiosa, kind of as well, because she is almost always escaping by the skin of her teeth these really precarious situations, like getting like raped by the pedophile son of Immortan Joe. So it's like, I mean, I'm glad these things are touched, because it wouldn't have been an accurate, gritty film otherwise, but it also isn't an accurate, gritty film either. It doesn't commit to the horror anyway. So what I'm trying to say is that, so Dementus and Furiosa have this relationship, and he keeps her caged, and he makes her witness horrific things, but on some level he like cares about her. And you can tell this at the end when Furiosa's like about to get her revenge. And to me, the revenge seemed so, it didn't make any sense to me, because yes, he killed her love, her mother. He did, but it almost was like, if she had at any point kind of unveiled herself during that torture scene, I think she would have gotten, I don't know, some mercy or something. Even what is it? Dementus, when he sees the way that Jack and Furiosa are kind of with each other, he's almost touched. And he's like, he kind of doesn't want to kill him. And he's like, well, we have to like follow rules or whatever. Otherwise things get, people have to be punished for doing wrong. And Furiosa is just kind of prideful and defiant till the end, where I'm like, Furiosa, just be like, hey, remember me? The little girl? He would have been like, hey, yeah, you! Oh my god, that was you! Oh, killer explosion, you brought that. Wow, Dora, very proud of you. Why don't we team up? And it's interesting, like, to think that she couldn't get over her mother's, like, him killing her mother. I was reading another kind of fantasy book wherein a character pretty much gets her mother killed and then gets adopted by the killer and kind of grows up with him. And it's weird because they kind of get over it. Obviously, it breeds tension later, but the part where he raises her, it's still an aspect that makes her, dual-minded. And that's what I'm saying. She's so single-minded about hating Dementus, and it doesn't, it should have been better written, because she should really be hating Immortan Joe. But what I think the writers were like tasked with the question of, well, how do we get Furiosa? How do we get this woman? Because, I mean, that's why it's so shocking and cool, is how do we get this woman to be the highest ranking officer in Immortan Joe's army? And, like, and it's a task, right? And I think their answer to that, well, let's give her a bigger villain than Immortan Joe. So while Joe is more, I guess you could say orderly than Dementus, they were kind of forced to make Dementus this buffoon, but like this really great orator as well, this charismatic orator. I don't know. I wish they played up the heart between Dementus and Furiosa, like the father, the kind of a found family thing, and then found a way for her to infiltrate Immortan Joe's ranks. But the thing is, she betrays him anyway, so there doesn't need to be any love there. She could just have been a sleeper agent for a really long time. But I guess she probably would not have been able to do that for years. And I think it's like 15 years between Fury Road and Furiosa. So it makes sense that she needed, I guess, to stay on a pretty neutral terms with him. And how they did that was by giving her a big bad, having her savagery sort of impress Joe, her competence and savagery. But that still leaves a large gap to how does savage, vengeance-minded Furiosa get back to the sort of really soft figure who wants to rescue, who gives a shit enough to rescue somebody else, right? And leave behind her high-ranking life. So, that's where we get to the character of Paetorian Jack. I thought, oh my gosh, first off, I like what they did with her escaping the vault and showing sort of how she became a revhead, and it being to do with, well, her size. Her size was very, it helped her be useful and stuff like that, because I couldn't imagine this child, right, just this little girl child hiding her identity for so long. It's really hard to think of. It's because you have to remember, like, this is just so brutal, like, this world is so brutal, and we know that from the beginning, she knows how to bite through gas lines and stuff like that, and her mother must have definitely trained her and stuff. But I like that we did get a peek of that she definitely had a propensity for these things, but that her size was both suspicious and useful. And I like how you kind of see that she stays, she's seen too much, right? So she can't be, and she's not been brainwashed since birth, so she knows sort of this is a civilization that has its own rules, and she doesn't clearly get close to anybody. The only thing so the scene where she's on the rig, and I forget why she's on the rig. Was she working on it, or was she just on there for escape? I don't know. Oh, I think I believe she tries to take over the rig. But like, she's just so but she happens to like get all the signals for when. No, she must have been part of the crew. So anyway, she's that gorgeous scene where they're dealing with the aerial octo attackers, and she's doing her thing. She's crawling underneath the rig and taking care of things and bombs and whatnot. And then the scene, everyone is getting taken out on her crew, and then you have Paetorian Jack who's driving the rig. And then this scene where she loses her hood and her fiery red hair is like, doing its thing. Okay, I loved it, but my God, how impractical. Did no one, like, I get that she needed a distinct look, because I'm thinking, even you know that, like, when Dementus gets sprayed with the red little cannon thing, mini cannon, and his hair goes red and his cloak goes red. I'm like, they were just thinking ahead for Party City costumes to be like very, so that the costumes would be, he'd be a character that would be recognized, but have a distinction. But anyway, I like that scene, and when Jack sees her, he's like, I'm like, oh, he's done. He's done. That man ain't probably seen a woman in like however long, and I was like, it's over for him. And I was like, why does she keep the long hair? I'm like, there's got to be an in-universe reason why she keeps the long hair, and maybe it's like, worse comes to worse, she can always, like, if her life is really threatened, she could always, do a little hair reveal and be like, no, please, officer, I was just riding through, like, but I would say that, it's really interesting how no one else is like hyper fixated on females. Despite there being like a large ass army of like only men and maybe like old survivors. I think that's why she probably hid her identity, because the women were so scarce and valuable that they would either get locked up in the vault or, I don't know what else. That's the thing that, like, in the beginning, when there's like a woman in Dementus's camp, and she's actually part of that like fight where they're trying to get the motorcycles to tear the guy apart, and she gets like slammed in the face, and I'm like, oh my god, I don't like seeing violence against women. But then she gets right back up and like somehow gets on the bike. And then there's also the woman who betrays Furiosa's mom in the beginning, and like, it's very interesting how Dementus doesn't oppress the women. And I haven't seen the other Mad Max movies. I know that there's like a Tina Turner who's like a boss and has her, she kind of has like a, maybe an Immortan Joe setup, but she's the boss. So I maybe I am just going straight off of the tone of Fury Road. And so I guess this whole like hyperfixation on like breeding stock is purely a Immortan Joe thing. But I thought that was like, that definitely gave Dementus points, in my opinion. Like, yeah, he's a crazy fuck, but he's not like, out here making sex slaves out of people. But on the other hand, he's just as brutal to them as the men. So, yeah, I really don't know. I really don't know which is better. I don't, maybe I don't know. I don't know. I really don't, would rather not be in this situation. So yeah, Dementus. So Furiosa's hair popping off that rig, flowing in the air after they've like taken everybody down, and then she tries to steal the war rig from Jack, and he kind of knocks her off with kind of ease, because she's like, whatever, she's still like, tiny. And then he leaves her, and I'm like, yeah, he's not gonna leave her. He's not gonna leave her. They have such crazy chemistry. Like, I think there was a scene where, I think, yeah, the rig, he walks in and he's taking command of the rig, and they kind of like look over at each other or something, and I was like, oh, yes, I love a good pairing. I love a good chem pairing so much. And anyway, they have this like, well, that is what chemistry is like this really crazy unspoken connection. And so anyway, he asks her to join her crew, and it's cool. I got really happy because I'm like, they're a team, and it's like a flower blooming in the wasteland. It's beautiful. Like, given how horrific these circumstances are, it's a beautiful freaking story, to find like love in the wasteland. and they're freaking Team Rocket, you know. Um, they basically start working together as partners, and they grow very close and they grow romantic, and he like loves her. He's willing to sacrifice himself so that she can escape and go to the green place, and she sees that, and that makes her fall in love with him because she sees what a like pure heart he has. And um it's great because it just go like, and then she goes to try to sacrifice. She had time to get away. I think they wanted to take the war rig when they escaped, but she had time to get away, and but she goes back to save him when they're at the bullet farm and everything is kind of falling apart. I really don't understand why, when they saw that the bullet farm was like empty, they proceeded to go in and then get trapped and whatever. I interpreted that as Jack being like, okay, whatever, I'm going in, don't worry about me, like, you stay here. And then he's like, whatever, I die. But yeah, I really didn't understand that sequence. Why did he go in if he saw that it was compromised by Dementus? It makes no sense to me. So, wait, didn't Dementus... What did he get? He got Gastown. Then he got Bullet Farm. Okay. Anyways, the other thing that, like, I didn't get was when she was openly, like, female and getting... And, like, when she and Jack were, like, being commissioned or whatever to do XYZ work, and I think she was meeting with Immortan Joe, and why would he not flag her as a vessel? Like, I think this is in the lore where she was tried to be used for breeding, but she was barren. But we don't see that in this, because that would have been too dark. As much as this tries to be like gritty, it would still be way too dark to like include something like that. But it still makes me wonder, like, how, Furiosa, how would you can't be out here with your red hair. You would have to be like hijabing yourself. But not even that, because that would tell people you're a woman. You can't be out here being a woman. You have to cut your hair short and stuff. And I understand for the audience, we love seeing beautiful hair. We love seeing stuff like that. It's iconic and cool, and but so is her buzz cut. And I feel like, I mean, I associate like long hair with like lover girls. I feel like when she cuts off her hair and she never grows it back again, that's her kind of like closing herself off to the possibility of love or femininity ever. Because femininity in this world means, okay, you're gonna go breed, or you're gonna be stuck in a vault. And it's the scene where they escape the bullet farm, or they're escaping the bullet farm. That was one of those scenes where I'm like, listen, I know in the sequel, in Fury Road, Furiosa doesn't have anybody. It's just these girls and her in the rig. And I know that means that, and I know they can't, like, what is it called when they retroactively change things? They can't retcon anything, and they can't. So this guy is gonna die, but the way they killed him was so horrible. And I also feel like again, first of all, it felt unnecessary, because if she just revealed her kind of who she was to Dementus, like, it could have, I don't know, it just seemed, I just wanted better motive. Like, if they were gonna die like that, if he was gonna die like that, I'd rather him honestly die in like an explosion or something, saving her life, rather than getting dragged to hell and then her watching it on her smashed, broken arm. Which that scene I didn't even understand, because I'm like, if she was supposed to have her arm, but then she gets attached by the arm and she hacks off the arm, and the thing is, it's like, I guess that proves her will to live is super strong. Even though that whole escape scene, we don't understand how she's being circled. She's attached by the arm. She has to hack off her arm. How's she going to hack off her arm? And then when she hacks off her arm, how does she not pass out from the blood loss immediately? How does she, and then just like also leaving Jack there, and we don't even get like a clear death scene for him. It's just kind of assumed that when they stop dragging him or when the motorcycle stops, and then they show her arm there dangling. Like, I really didn't like that. First off, that's not how death scenes work, okay? If you're gonna have a fridged girlfriend or fridged boyfriend, whatever, love interest, if you're gonna fridge somebody, you better make it emotional. Have them like looking each other in their eyes while they die, stuff like that. I mean, we could have gotten one scene of her like looking at him desperately, him looking at her being like, it's okay, run, or something. Like, you know, anyway. But I get it and I don't get it. But I really liked Jack. I really liked his presence. I really wish they found a way to, I don't know, make it so that she escapes and then she tells him where to go, and he has to like meet her, and then he gets intercepted, or maybe he's always been waiting for her. She just doesn't mention it to anybody because it's none of your damn business about my man in the desert, you know. And then they like, I just wish there was, I just really like them. I really like them. I wish he wasn't a fridged man who just motivated more anger for Dementus. And I have to think of like, when they created this character, they were like, we need a like a noble leather jacket wearing dude with a heart of gold to be our like Mad Max villain, and this guy will do the trick, and we're gonna make it a little something so that she has motivation when he dies to hate Dementus more. I just I can't believe that this prequel was like existed before Fury Road, because it just could have been so much better in my opinion. Those development aspects. After, I feel like the best parts of the film are when she and Jack are together, like when this dynamic is in full swing, because once he's gone and she's alone again, I get revenge is the most. I will say one thing. I came in kind of dreading the violence, and I came out of it like, yes, F everybody up, kill everybody. Yes, enjoy yourself, girl. Swing that machete. And I mean, I guess that is thanks to the plot and the revenge-driven plot, because nobody likes violence unless it's violence deserved, right? So the ending, I mean, I honestly wasn't that satisfied. I wasn't that intrigued or impressed with the ending, how they skipped the 40-day war, that weird, like, that whole sequence was very weird, that how they decided to pace it. And then she chases him down, she isolates him, he says his quippy Dementus lines, and then he says what I freaking said it all along, which was like, you magnificent thing, you crawled out of the deepest pit. He's impressed with her. And then he's like, well, it's thanks to me, babe, that you even have all these skills to survive. Well, survive in what? Not thrive, definitely, but... And I'm like, dude, he's giving you a warm effing reception. He probably would have given you a warm effing reception had you revealed yourself. And it just pissed me off, because I'm like, Dementus, the way they made him like a psychopath post his family dying, and like even the scene where he trades her for the bear, I found it really like, oh, he's gonna regret that. He's like he's gonna feel bad about it, you know? He really, because he definitely seemed like he bonded with her. He, she was a little girl, and he's not like a monster, right? Well, he is, but I guess he's a monster to adults who he sees as, um, the same people, part of the same breed of humans, right? Who are like all sick and deserve a really horrific death, and they're bored and they need entertainment. So like he has all these motivations for why he is the way he is, but I feel like he's desired to preserve things that are good. Um, that's why he calls her perfect in every way, right? When he introduces her to Immortan Joe, like she's a perfect little girl. And in some ways, like you want to protect things that are innocent and perfect. So anyway, this film made me see how much Furiosa was just so, she lacked perspective so much, and it 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 wasn't satisfying for me when he got killed, and I wish that maybe we got some tears at the end where she was like, hey, you're fucked up, but you did protect me for some time, for a moment of my life. And she kind of, she still gets her revenge, but she like does it, she's sad about it, you know, she's sad about it, and she wishes things were different. And this would require obviously like some changes to Dementus's character. I think that would have been so much deeper than revenge. I always love, maybe this is the Naruto head, the Narutard in me, where I always want to see like redemption arcs and stuff like that, or at least like something before a villain dies, especially as good one as portrayed by Chris Hemsworth. But yeah, I felt like those are the changes that probably would have made the film and the story better. But other than that, oh, it was a freaking amazing experience in 4D. And the thing is, it's like a miracle of God that I even saw this film in 4DX, because the moment that I'm like literally texting everybody, you need to go see this in 4DX. This was so amazing. On freaking Discount Tuesday too. It was really like good deal. And the day after, it's no longer playing in that format, and it's now, the baton's been passed to Bad Boys, um, the next summer blockbuster that, you know, needs that theater. I'm like, dang, but oh my gosh, was it the experience of a lifetime to see this? It was so freaking good. Um, that aside, I do want to see it again. I finally understand the concept of like wanting to go to a theater to see a movie again and again and again. Like I finally get it. People comment, "Oh, I saw it twice and 3 times in theater." I'm just like, "What?" I finally get the idea. So I'm trying to go see it. Maybe I'll see it in standard edition or IMAX, but I really like it. And I want to see if I like it without the effects just as much. But I liked it because, you know, when you walk away from a film and they kind of did everything right, there's not really much to say. But I also I really like character studies, obviously. As I really, so this is an action film. I know that I was watching the George Miller Cannes interview with all of like the stars, and somebody said like, I think they asked a question about I guess, how do you bring characterization to an action film, or how do you make it deeper than just like an action film? And he's like, well, film is deep. By virtue of being film, it's very deep because it's kinetic, meaning everything is moving, and you can't even replicate the same feeling through a book, through a graphic novel. Like, you by definition are just, you're getting a lot of information and input, and it's always going to move forward. And I think he's like, it's intrinsic, dude. It's intrinsic, and it's not just pure spectacle. There is heart to what he's doing, and especially here there is. I just wish that instead of in service of making Furiosa a badass, tough as nails, takes no know nothing from nobody. Instead of that being the end goal and us needing like justification, like, ooh, how did she become like that? Instead of us needing that, we genuinely just want to take characters on journeys of growth. Because yes, she learns, like with Jack, she learns that there are some people worth loving and trusting. And that's how, when she sees Max again, she's able to recognize that potential and to have that trust in a person. But I, that's not really the thesis here. The thesis is revenge, and um, it's a pretty myopic revenge, in my opinion. Um, because you leave a villain out. You leave a villain because, I mean, here's the other thing. If she's such a brutal killer, why not just assassinate Immortan Joe? Why not just do that? Because if you think about it, she steals the wives, she learns out his entire gang. Well, okay, she needed to do that. That was actually quite necessary to the plot. Because, okay, whatever, he was heavily armed, but, you know, it seems like a lot of plot contrivances. But anyways, I like that about Furiosa. Loved it. Pretty much loved it. We'll be going to see it again, and thank you so much for listening to this. This is, oh my gosh, I need to cut this down, but thank you, and please tell me what you thought about the film. Who was your favorite character? Do you think that there was some missed characterization opportunities? And if you think this prequel was necessary, or if you would be interested in another Mad Max film. But thank you so much. I'll be making more commentary on random things, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, thank you.